Hi everybody, it's Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Hey, it's time for a new Now or Wow card. Today I've got two cards for you. If you have just a few minutes, I've got a great card that you can create right now. If you have a few extra minutes and you want to step it up, you've got to check out the Wow. Now, I'm going to have all the measurements, everything that you need to know about the card over at SimplySimpleStamping.com. Just look down in the YouTube description and you will find a link to where you can see all the details about the cards, where you can order supplies. But we're going to go over everything that you need right here as well. I think you're going to love this design created with the Forever Blossom stamp set. So let's get started. All right, let's go ahead and go over the cardstock and the supplies you need to create either the Now or the Wow card. Both cards are going to use a Seaside Spray card base, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4 inch. You're going to need an additional piece of the Seaside Spray. If you're creating the Now card, it will be this piece here, 3 1/4 by 4 3/4. If you're creating the Wow card, you need just a smidge more. That's going to be 3 1/4 by 4 7/8. That's the only one that'll be different. You can see that it's just a tad longer. And the last thing that we're going to need is some Whisper White cardstock. I have a piece here that is 4 inches by 5 inches. This is for my focal image, and it is 3 inches by 4.5 inches. The star of the show today is Forever Blossoms. This has been one of my favorite stamp sets. Now, I do need to tell you, it is also a bundle, and there are some great dies that go along this with this set, but we're just going to use the stamp set today. Let's get to stamping. We're going to start and we're going to be working with a basic gray ink pad. And I have my focal image put here on one of our largest blocks. And you notice down here I have the Always and Forever. Now there are other sentiments in this set, so please feel free to swap those out. And you don't have to put them all on one big block. I just kind of like the option of being able to stamp once and have it all done. We're going to stamp this right here. This is the 3 by 4.5 inch Whisper White. Now I do want to let that dry for just a couple minutes because we're going to be doing some watercoloring on this, and I don't want any of that gray to bleed. So I'm going to let that sit for just a few minutes, and while I do, I'm going to bring in that larger piece of Whisper White. And guys, we just need to tear just a little side off. I'm going to say I got about 1/4 inch. And you notice I'm tearing in little short spurts, and I'm tearing towards myself, all right? So we're going to give ourselves a nice little torn edge. Now, I'm going to go ahead and adhere that onto my card base. Now, I can have that feathered side out, but you could also flip it over if you like the smoother side. And this is simply going to be adhered right into the center of our card base. Now we're going to come in with that Seaside Spray, and because this is my Now card, this is the smaller one. So this is the one that is 3 1/4 by 4 3/4. Let's add that right here, and I'm just going to kind of center it up on my Whisper White. Now, I know a lot of you are used to seeing me die cut and punch some things and do some things. Please feel free to do that from this card before you get started, but there is no additional punching from those layers. All right, I think my focal image is dry now and I'm ready to work. I'm going to bring in some grid paper because we might get a little messy here. And I'm going to bring in my Seaside Spray ink pad and one of my clear blocks. And I've just got one of my smaller ones here. We're going to make an ink pad. Just as simple as that. Now, I'm also going to bring in an aqua painter, and I actually have my aqua painter filled with alcohol. I have a video on why I prefer alcohol over water, and I'll put the link to that video up there in the corner, so if you missed that, you'll know why I love alcohol. So let's get our aqua painter started. I'm going to press on the barrel a little bit until I see that the rubbing alcohol is beginning to flow, and it is. I'm going to I'm kind of continuing to squeeze. Can you see how I'm making a really big puddle here on that block? And I've got some of that blue, or that Seaside Spray. It's such a pretty color, and I think it's so nice on these flowers. But you see, it's just a very quick now way to color in those flowers. If you go outside the line, guess what? It's watercolor, and that looks fine. Hey guys, if you like the Now or Wow series, and gosh, I hope that you do, would you do me a favor and would you give me a thumbs up here on YouTube and share the videos? I always appreciate that. All right, look at that. My watercoloring is done. And if you need to add more, go ahead and add more. But let's make sure we're not getting this paper too wet. This is just Whisper White cardstock. It's not watercolor paper. I'm going to bring in my chamois and I'm just going to clean that block off. And then I can just kind of brush my aqua painter there on my grid paper to make sure that there's no more of the blue. Now let's come in with mint macaron. I'm going to create my little ink pad just like I did before. Now we're going to get these flowers, or the leaves, forgive me. So just like we did before, we're just going to get a little bit of that rubbing alcohol on there. And I can just simply come in. And you see it really is a very fast technique to color in, and it gives that nice little watercolor look. You can also kind of come in and get the stems as well. All right, now if you feel this, you're going to feel that that paper is still a little wet. Even though the rubbing alcohol is going to dry faster than water, I want to speed this along. Now you can let it air dry, or you can come in with your heat tool. Here's a little tip. When you're heat setting it, if you'll iron it at the same time, it'll help that image lay nice and flat. I'm now going to add 6 Stampin' Dimensionals to the back of my image, and we can add that right there to the front of our card. Now that is a very quick Now card. Even with that watercoloring, it was still done quickly. All right, let's step it up a notch and create a Wow card. So remember my same little torn edge, my same layering. Remember this piece was a little bit bigger. This piece of Seaside spray was 3 1/4 by 4 7/8. And you see I layered those together in the exact same way. I've stamped my focal image just as I did before, but this time we're going to color in with the Stampin' Blends. Now, I know you guys have seen me use Stampin' Blends numerous times. Tell you what, I'm just going to focus on one flower. So I've got the light Seaside spray. I'm going to color in my flower with the light. Now with the dark, I'm going to use the finer tip, and I'm really just going to add some shadows. Now listen, Stampin' Up, God bless them, look at that. They have already put all those great shadows. In fact, if you didn't want to blend and use the 2 colors, you could even just stick with one. I'm really just kind of scribbling on some color and adding a little bit of shadow there and some highlight. I'm going to come back in with the light, and I'm going to blend these 2 colors together, the light and the dark. And what that's going to do is give me all these kind of great highlights to my card. It's going to have real definition. Now, I will tell you, as you work with this, with the blends, you're going to see it might look a little dark. Remember, that alcohol has to dry, so it will go and dry and do everything nicely. Let's go ahead and we're going to do this exact same method, only we're going to be doing it with the mint macaron. And I'll just do these 2 leaves here. So I'll color them in with the light. I'll hit some of that shading with the dark. Again, not coloring it all in, but just kind of giving that dark to get that highlight. Coming back in with the light mint macaron and blend, 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 blend. Let the alcohol of those 2 blend together. I wanted to just take a moment so that you could see the difference between the one with the dark and the light, which is this flower here, and just colored in light. Can you see now what a difference adding that dark blend to my cards and to my images? It really makes a huge difference. And there we go. So pretty with the Stampin' Blends. I'm now going to bring in my paper trimmer and get ready. We're going to splice this up. We're going to cut this to 1 1/2 inches and 1 1/2 inches. So I now have 3 equal pieces, and I'm going to put Stampin' Dimensionals on each one of these. I hope that you're enjoying the card. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, take a moment and click subscribe. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. All right, now we're going to take our 3 pieces and I'm going to go ahead and lay them out. I haven't pulled the backings off yet, so I'm just laying these out. You can see how that's going to kind of lay out. Now you see also why we needed that little bit larger piece of the Seaside Spray as our background. Now what I find best is I'm going to start at the bottom and I'm not going to press that down. I don't want it to be stuck just yet, because if I need to move it around, if I haven't pressed it down, I'm still good. I can remove it and slide it around. Let's add this one at the top. And now, of course, our middle one right here. And I can see that one's just a tiny bit crooked. And see, I can easily remove it. So you do have time to make some adjustments. Take a look. When you're happy with it, you can give those a press. Now, it is a wow card. That means it needs a little ribbon. And I have a piece of our scallop edge. This is in that Seaside Spray. I'm going to press that onto a mini glue dot. And we're going to add that little bit of ribbon right there. It's just a little ribbon knot. Very simple. All right, let me bring in my now card. There you go. So if you just need a now, I've got you covered. If you have an extra few minutes and you want to create a wow, why not create the wow card? Hey, all the supplies I used today, the measurements, everything that you need, you're going to find that at simplysimplestamping.com. Look in the YouTube description for the link. And if you would like to order any of the supplies, you can do that right there as well. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed my cards. I can't wait to stamp with you again, so we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.